Can you see them? Hello, everybody. We are live. If you can see the comments, Sam, let me know. If not, I'll just tell you about them.
Yeah, no. I'm full screen new at the moment, which is a...
Don't worry. Well, that's much the best way to always be, I think, Claire, in full screen. So welcome anybody who's decided to listen in. I am with the wonderful Samme Allen, who has beautifully put her name title up there, Emcee and virtual event host. And you may be thinking, that's spooky. I thought that's what Claire does. And yes, we collaborate. Gone are the days when you thought everybody doing what you did or does is someone to be scared of and frightened of and not to talk to and share with. Now it's all about collaboration. And I'm very lucky to have met Sam. I don't even know how we met. How did we meet? Through LinkedIn.
Do you know, it was because I saw your beautiful face come up on LinkedIn, and then I saw that you were a host, and I saw that you were from Bristol. And so you vaguely had the same sort of hairstyle as me. And I thought maybe you were just some weird clone to start with. And then I got really excited, just like you're a sister from another world. And, you know, as soon as I saw that, and I think one of the things that we have a little bit of a lonely life. We're a bit, you know, going from one family to another as a host. And I think that's when we decided to link in and have a cup of coffee. And ironically, because it's all been during COVID, we still haven't actually managed to physically chink a glass of wine. We've just, we've collaborated on tons of projects, and yeah, it's generally been great. Thanks, LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's good. I think because I knew your name, because I think I got a LinkedIn message from somebody once who said, "Dear Sam, are you available for this event?" I was thinking, they've done a bit of duping, copying and posting. Who could that be? And obviously
name and shame them.
Yeah. You spell Sam slightly differently. I think it did stick in my head. So that's quite interesting. It's so funny, isn't it, when that happens? And I think maybe I'd sent you a connection message ages ago, but it's lovely that we did meet, and we have worked on some events, because you, as well as being your own amazing virtual event host and obviously in-person event host, you have Samme Allen Associates when you get other people gigs as well, which makes you very nice.
Soon to be rebranded and launched. Yes, excited. Well, I haven't told you because you've been selling yourself. So yeah, from going from just little old me hosting in-person and virtual conferences and events, we are building up this incredible network of associates. Really, really amazing. Quite a lot of women, because as you know, I'm all about empowering women. I think this is an amazing career path for women. You don't have to do this full time if you don't want to. We're naturally empathetic. Men do a really good job of this. I'm not dissing them, but I've got some amazing female MCs and male MCs around at the moment, almost around the whole of the world, because I think it's really important that we think of the role of the host in terms of the different stakeholders that are being who are participating in a conference and event. I think it's really important that we think about sustainability. I think gone are the days, sadly, where it is right that I fly across to Las Vegas for a 2-day meeting and fly back. So in terms of the sustainability policy that we have now, looking into, well, can we find and source one of our amazing team? And the other thing that we sort of started sort of 18 months or so ago, Claire, is actually sharing the best practice amongst the associates, because we all have these incredible experiences. We probably do more than lots and lots of event organizers, because we are coming in, week out. So actually to bring this sort of network together so that we can share those experiences, share ideas of what's worked, what hasn't worked.
Oh, can you give me half an hour? 30
this
minutes?
Is live, folks. This is live.
Okay, so that was housekeeping, coming in to tidy my room because I'm in a hotel. Sorry, everybody, that's the joy of live. Carry on. I was intrigued, but you were talking about the sustainability of it, because even though it's gorgeous to fly abroad for different events, it isn't always practical unless they particularly want you, if you can introduce them to a clone or someone that you are really proud to I suppose what the word is, put up as a replacement for you, who's in a slightly more convenient position, but can save the client some money, and also it can be more sustainable, then it's a good way to work, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that having this network gives our clients this opportunity. And I think that whilst we're coming out of pandemic and we're looking at, more of the in-person events happening, I think it's something that we, as you said, I think everybody's looking to do some traveling. You're enjoying a lovely little holiday, even though it's a working holiday. It is a consideration and it is important. And when we're thinking about speakers and hosts, it is a case of, the joys of this new technology. 2 weeks ago, I hosted an event that was in Philadelphia, as you can see by the picture on the wall. I wasn't in Philadelphia. I was hosting here in the studio to a live audience in Philly with virtual attendees, as well as keynotes in person and keynotes virtually. And it worked really well. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the why behind, bringing a host or bringing the speakers to the in-person event? How's that going to work? And as we navigate through this enjoyable world of hybrid, I think things will become, more and more clearer. But I think it's also good for clients to be able to come to us as Samme Allen and Associates and new name company.
So that is it yet to be discovered? Oh, good.
It's TBC because it's still mulling around. It's mulling around in the dream pot. Where you've got. I'm 99% sure of what it is. All the domains are up, and we just need to.
I won't push you for that because it's still in thing. So, one of the reasons as well that we connected was because we realised with the government testing and guidelines and so on, you could be all set to go to an event somewhere and be about to fly or travel or train, and then you get a message saying, "Oh, you've been in a cafe where somebody had the condition and the COVID and you can't travel, you've got to have a test and you've got to wait." And obviously that's going to be a nightmare for any of our clients. So we have to have backups, because obviously in the old days, if you didn't feel well, you dragged yourself to the event come hell or high water, and you dosed yourself up on cold meds or whatever, and you were the hostess with the mostest, and then you collapsed at the end of the day and nobody knew. But we can't do that if we've literally been told you've been in contact with someone with COVID. And so we knew we had to have backup plans. But I think it then also meant we can share best practice. And obviously a lot of our sharing of best practice is often just a good old whinge and a moan about some stranger people we've come across and some of the issues around hosting. And I think probably our biggest whinge has been, there's been many, but our biggest one that we pet peeve when it comes to event hosting is people not booking us early enough in the process to get the maximum out of their event host. It doesn't even cost them anymore. It's just that the earlier they have us on board, they get to pick our brains, because we have been doing virtual in all sorts of platforms in all sorts of ways for a while, quite a lot. Sometimes before COVID, I was doing virtual events, since 2014. So that's been a frustration, isn't it?
I think that we need to get over this hurdle, and you and I have both had this in the last 14 months, where people suddenly felt the need that they needed to put on an event, which is great, totally great, because we realized that the world wasn't going back to normal. But complete agreement, and anybody who's watching this, it doesn't cost you any more, but the quality of your event is going to increase substantially by bringing us in. I think because it's a secondary thought, and quite often back in the good old days, BC, before COVID, I think organisers would get to the sort of the final planning and then go, "Oh, we need someone to link all of this together. Oh, should we just see if we've got enough money in the budget for a host?" Yeah. And I think we need to change that, just like, Wi-Fi. This is how ancient I am. Back in the days when I worked in in venues, Wi-Fi wasn't an immediate consideration back in the day. It was one of those, we need a venue and we need the chairs and we need it to have natural daylight. And then, the sort of, then it's like, "Oh, do you have Wi-Fi?" And now, as we know, Wi-Fi, any connection, wire connections are sort of, it's the expectation. And I think in the planning process now, bringing in an MC, a host, moderator, facilitator, whatever you want to call us, we're not fussy, I think is really important. Number one, whilst we continue and will continue in the world of hybrid, we understand how this world works probably better than most people, because we have, as you said, been on, we're not experts on one particular platform. We work with them all. So we know the pitfalls, we know the challenges, which are the most important things to understand. We know how to respond to any of the problems that are going to happen online and in person, and how to do that stylishly without anyone really noticing what is happening. We've got the experience of supporting the speakers in the environment that they're not overly comfortable with right now. And I think sort of that last thing when you said it's the gallons of experience, because again, I can come to you or one of the other team and sort of say, look, we want to do some sort of team building. Have you seen this work before? So, the question is, if you're going to put this into your budget, which you should be absolutely, whether it's us, whether it's other great MCs, and we will recommend great MCs and hosts, put this in the budget as importantly as a wide connection, as importantly as your venue, whether that be an online system or an actual physical venue. Stick that host in, because that will just elevate the experience of your delegation.
I agree. And I love it when an event organizer will contact me saying, I'm putting together a proposal and I need to know what it will cost because I want to have a host. They need one, and I need to tell them right up front. It was a lovely message here from Catherine King. I don't know if you can see it. It's always a worry when the host is an afterthought. Makes you wonder how much they know about the role. Quite. That's absolutely it. We don't know about everybody's jobs. We can't know everything about everything. But if you're going into a new world, which we do every time we host an event on a different industry or a subject, you learn about it. You find out what the chat is, what the issues are, what the challenges are in that industry. And I'm always amazed people go, oh yes, we can chuck an event together in 5 minutes. And it's like, well, you can, but will it be worth going to? And the one pet peeve I have is when they say, oh, well, we didn't think we needed a host because but now like all these people have signed up, we think maybe we should. And I'm always like, look, if one person signed up, you should be giving them the same experience. They are the most important person.
1, 10 or 1,000, yeah.
Yeah, everything you do around your event should be, how does this make things better for the attendee? And that's what your host's job is. They look after the attendee. They are their, the audience friend, I suppose, is what I like to think of it as. We are there to represent them, to use the language they want to hear.
You're the on-screen representative at the moment, when unfortunately, and a great shout out to Catherine. She's an absolutely great host. One of the other things I think everyone needs to remember, hey Jan, good to see you, is that we're not just running and hosting your event. So something that Claire and I found out earlier on, I think we found out like January this year, didn't we? Because we talk all the time, is that we now know everybody out there plans their events for the last weeks of the month.
Yeah.
So you're all planning your wonderful, fabulous event, but we're actually juggling maybe 3 or 4 others around that at the same time, and including sort of working with the associates and making sure everyone's happy. So we have to consider that time that your host's going to have, because they want to dedicate that time. More time is needed now than ever before, Claire. We used to be able to do some couple of speaker calls, depending on how much work we were doing on site. We would be writing, scripts, cue cards on travel journeys like speakers were exactly the same. You have an incredibly intense day on site, rehearsal day. So that's a long old day where you'll rewrite and you'll be working on what's going to happen. And then day 1, re-script it in the evening, day 2, etc., etc. But it would all be, like we all remember, compacted into that time. Whereas now, when we're meeting our speakers, very rarely do we get the speakers all together. I think we have one job this week, actually. This wonderful client of ours has managed to bring all the speakers together in one session for a briefing. But we have a plethora of briefings with speakers. We have a plethora of briefings with technology, with our AV guys. So there's a whole load of stuff. It's double the amount of preparation time than it was in an in-person event. And I think that's probably a top tip. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think, everyone's talking about the advantage of hybrid, which means you can bring loads more people to your event. You can make so much more of your event because people who couldn't come can now come. And it is going to, people go, oh, but it's going to cost more money. It is, but your event is now twice as effective as it was if you do it properly. The connections that you can make, and also that engaging with people before the event, that kind of the creating of the sense of making them have a sense of FOMO if they're not going to come, if they're not going to turn up, all those bits of work that can be done. And the joy of virtual is you can make a video and send it out, just needs to have that. And I do find, I'm sure you find it too, like we'll book an event with a client for 3 or 4 months hence, and obviously then, you know, we're waiting for stuff to come from them and we're attending meetings, but then they kind of leave it really late, and you sort of send a message going, hi guys, you know, like we've got an event in a month, and they don't they kind of,
the challenge of that is if you've already,
yeah, you can't do all of it.
No, but also if the client's already briefed speakers, we can't help enhance that experience by, you know, we're reinventing the wheel.
Yeah,
we know what works. I mean, you know, that whole thing. I'm perched today and Claire's perched today. You'll never see this again. This video will be encapsulated, Claire, because, you know, normally we're standing, and, you know, we've got a load of tips and tricks that we can give to your speakers, and that will help. The other thing, as you said, we can participate in recording adverts. We can participate in promotional videos. We can do the pre-recording. So if we're pre-recording an interview, bring us and let us do that before the show. There's so many things that we can do that, as you said, that will elevate. And when we say elevate, let's talk about this in terms of ROI. If the meeting, if the conference is more engaging, if you're doing more stuff, you're opening up opportunities for revenue with your stakeholders. You know, we can interview sponsors, we can encourage people to go where they need to go in terms of that. We can do all of that sort of stuff. We can be so much more inclusive with this dual world of in-person and virtual experiences, because some people just, at the moment, there's a lot of people who aren't comfortable traveling yet. As we know, we're pretty much still locked down. There are people who won't be able to travel. There are there's travel bans still happening. There'll be travel challenges based on sustainability. And also people just have, you know, Claire, you've had a young family. There are just times when people can't, but actually they can still participate in this incredibly new world. So they can still buy their conference pass, their conference ticket. The content, and this is where I get excited, as you know, in my heart, I'm the host, but in my soul, I'm a meeting designer, I'm an event designer. And we can get so much more if we spend a little bit more time in that planning phase, really understanding who our stakeholders are, where they are, before we go straight into, well, let's put this event on. It's got to be in this platform. It's got to be that. If we can take, again, I suppose, top tip number 3 is back to this whole time thing, is come back and go, well, actually, if we're spending this much on an event and we're expecting this much time from our participants and this much money from our stakeholders, how much time should we be spending on designing the right experience for them? And I think, you know, that would be my tip is, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We are limited always in life by our imagination. And if we've only ever experienced a certain type of event, it's very hard if you're not working in the field to know the potential and the possibilities, and also to understand that you might have great ambitions for a really over the top event. It might not be required for your kind of audience. So it is really worth working with a meetings designer to get, do I need that? Will they like that? Will they appreciate where could I spend the money the best way? Rather than, oh, well, I know that events should be like this. I think I thought events were like this. They're only what you want them to be. So if you can be more ambitious, or if you can just be a little bit more thoughtful, you could get them exactly right for your attendees, rather than just go, oh, it's got to be like it always was. Then we've got to hire a conference center, we've got to do this, we've got to have people making name tags, we've got to have this. It's like, no, you can do so much more. This industry is finally being properly, you know, into the digital revolution, being revolutionized by digital, and it's just only sensible to go and talk to people who know what they're doing. I wouldn't even dream of having an event now without getting it designed. You know, even though I know stuff about it, I would just go, I'm not a pro. I know enough to know there's stuff that's going on that I don't know about. So get a pro to do it.
I think it's just being okay. And I think what you said right at the beginning when you introed the show today, that, you know, in the good old days, we would have been competitors, a bit like, you know, event planners out there. And actually Jan, who's making some awesome comments, who is one of my most favorite people in the whole world. Jan runs a partnership, an agency, sort of, you know, similar to the associate business, where, you know, you can go to Jan and the hospitality partnership to source those experts. And I think that's where, and you know, we've got to have some positives out of this absolutely horrific experience that we've all gone through. And I think this is one of them, is that actually it's okay to say, you only know what you know. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, because there are experts out there, whether that's coming to us in terms of design and hosting. And it's okay to sort of say, well, I can't do that, but I know someone who can. And I think some of us were doing that back in the good old days, but I think that's where the trend is moving. I know that with our clients, we also have that experience when someone's worked with us for the first tranche and gone through the experience with us. We are turning it around so that our clients now, once, and I think any of our clients would say that if they're watching, and if you are watching, please agree. But the second, third, fourth time they're working with us, we definitely do things with a longer lead time. We get much more involved in the design, and we create a better experience for the stakeholders. So
it's interesting that comment Jan said there about the positives and the partnership and collaboration is the solution. I mean, in many industries and in many times that people are like, oh, well, I won't suggest a host because that's going to take away the budget from this side of the event or that side of the event. And it's been that mentality throughout many industries, I think. And now people are getting this customer first. We hear it a lot, but it is just do the best for the customer. So if you're going, look, I think you could shave off something there, but you need a host to make the event. It's going to look good for everyone, even if maybe your budget shrunk somewhere else. It's just actually all it should be about is giving giving the event the best chance to be a super success, regardless of where the budget is allocated. It's just got to go to the best place and where people need it. And I've done events quite recently, where certain amounts of money were spent on extremely Gucci interactivity and all the rest of it, and actually didn't work for that particular audience because they all loved it, but they didn't like doing the interactive. They were all quite shy. It wasn't their thing. And then other events where literally people are jumping all over the poles like nutters and love every minute of, and if you didn't have that, then they would have been very disappointed. So it's really like those subtle things of who's your audience, what do they really want, how can we make it happen, and just really being that, I think, almost forensic about who you're working for.
But an online platform or a venue cannot be agile enough to respond to the audience in the moment. And that's where, and again, that's the difference between saying, oh, we'll have somebody internal do it. Come to us and we'll train you. I'm not saying don't have an internal person, but please come and spend a couple of hours with us training, because it is the experience is the same as, I really like flying a plane. I really like the idea of it. I love the idea of it. In fact, I can't think of anything nicer. But I would suggest no one would want to get into a 747 with me, because guess what? I don't have any experience of flying a plane. So if something happens, with the best will in the world, I'm not the pilot. And I use this, and it sounds really dramatic, but I use this when we talk about hosts, when people say, well, our sales director is going to do it, or our managing director is going to do it. Right? Number one, let them do the job that they're really good at. What we can do is actually make them look even better. We understand those challenges and those pitfalls. We can read an audience, and reading an audience online is very, very difficult. So we can read an audience online, we can gauge the level of engagement online as well as in person, and we can react before a session, after a session, during a session to help lift that depending on what those objectives are. And that's just down to experience. And I think that you put pressure on your internal hosts to expect those people to do that job when that's something that they don't do, and you're asking them to do that once a year. I see a lot of them on the agenda, let's have the chairman and just let's work with the chairman or chairperson to create a better experience that highlights what they want to achieve from that event without putting that pressure on. Should something then happen and go wrong, you've got that professional there. And I think it's more about, and we've never worked out how to put this into a proposal, it's more about, we know pretty much what can go wrong and we can manage that out for you.
Well, I always think that's where we earn our money, to be honest, when something goes wrong, because it will go wrong every single time. The best will in the world, It's humans. We're humans. And actually also when you put humans and technology together, it just goes wrong. You can't help it. We know from all the events we've ever done, there's always the event organizer running around looking smooth, and underneath it's that kind of swan in the water thing. So we are there when that goes wrong, because we can pick up and we can ad lib and we can, come up with something else and alternatives. And it's easy because that's our job. That poor chairman, who's an absolutely incredible chairman, who's done an amazing job and looking after a multi-million-dollar company, he does what he does. We're then expecting him, as you say, to fly the 747. It's just not fair with no training. It's just not fair.
And it's also the little things people, when you're broadcasting, and we're going to be broadcasting in person as well as, in studio like we're doing today. The complexities of broadcasting, discussing, understanding what's happening on your platform or in your audience to make sure that people are engaged. You then have, so folks, if you haven't done this, it's all great fun. You have an earpiece with somebody in production shouting. You may even have two earpieces with somebody else in somewhere else telling you something whilst you're talking. And this all has to happen without anyone having any knowledge of it. And quite often if somebody's in your ear, as Claire will tell you, you know this, Claire, if it's going on in your ear, it's kicking off. Something is not right. And so then you have to be able to be processing what you're being asked to do at the same time as continuing this conversation and being very smooth and making sure that you can see everything that's going on an online chat if it's got an online component. And don't be mean, folks. Don't give that to your managing director or your sales director. That's just not fair.
Well, I think, and we know, obviously the onset of hybrid and virtual big events, they are studio events now. They are mini TV programs and with a live audience as well. The closest thing is think of, Question Time or something similar to that, where you have presenting to a live audience, but actually also presenting to a huge audience at home, who's actually the priority in TV programs, aren't they? And so it's just trying to make that perfection, but getting it perfect, getting everybody, both sets of audiences, anybody, wherever they're watching, to feel as included and as important as the next person. And you can't do that, just expect it to happen, however natural a presenter you are. And so it's not like, oh, you must hire us, but you've got to think about everyone involved, because they will then enjoy it and do a better job, and your career could sink or swim on an event going wrong, can't it? So if you were the person,
it's your career as an event organizer, but it's also the reputation of your brand. It's your stakeholders who are investing in it. If everybody has had the experience that you've mapped out and you've measured, I don't think we should be talking about not having this stuff in your budget. This just has to be in a budget. And if you're planning an event well, you would design your budget well. So I think it's not a matter of saying, what don't you have? It's what do I need in order to fulfill the objectives of this event? And that's just, it is meeting design.
That's true. Well, look, we've got a minute left, because I always want to keep these under half an hour, because obviously
it's quite warm today. And as we know in studios, the windows are shut.
And also, we could witter for hours. Wanted to ask you, I suppose, what has been your biggest learning from events this last year, do you think? What's the big thing that you just think, oh my God, I did not know this, and now I do?
That's a massive question, Claire, that you're asking.
But obviously it's probably one
with absolutely no prep, just saying, this is what we call a rugby pass, Yeah,
but what's the thing that's struck you the most then?
I have to be really honest, and everyone knows that, I was traveling the world, having just an incredible time as an in-person MC before COVID, and, loving it. I found my thing. I honestly I'm so lucky to have found something that's something I love and I'm actually quite good at, which is, that's the dream in your life. And then obviously when COVID struck and, killed the business, this whole world of, online events, I was so unbelievably cynical about, because I do in person, I do participation, I do engagement. My job title is Chief Participation Strategist in the business. But what I have learned is that you can change anything, and the world is really exciting, and the world of events is going to be a really exciting place over the next couple of years. And as much as we hear the word battered around, Zoom fatigue or whatever you want to call it, I would just say the importance of really planning and designing a meeting has really struck me this year, and the fact that we can pretty much do anything online. The social, we can't. When people say we can't network online, I will say to you, we can, and I will give you 1,000,001 examples if you want to call me and talk to me about it. Social is the most challenging one, because social, we're social beings, and I think we get networking and social. But can we run an event? Can we run an event in person and online? Are there these amazing opportunities out there, thanks to technology, that's only going to get better? And I think for me, that big shift, I did an online event design course, and I went into it very cynical. I'm not going to make friends. I'm not going to network. I'm not going to learn anything. I've got the attention span of a gnat. So how am I going to spend 3 hours online? All of that got smashed. All of it got smashed by this intense course I did last year during the very beginning of lockdown, thanks to the Meeting Design Institute and the team, Sophia and Martin there. And I have to give them that kudos, because that shifted my belief and also then my clients. So we've gone on the journey. I've got some, as you know, some really wonderful, there's some amazing clients that we've got, and we've managed to help them change their idea of what this could look like, and then therefore change their participants. And there's nothing, as you know, there's nothing nicer than the buzz. And I think we see more of it now. Our dopamine fix is from when we see people in the chat going, oh my God, this is amazing. I've hated every event I've been to, but this is an incredible one. And we can go through those accolades until the cows come home. So that's probably been my big learning, is that, you know what, we can make this work if we work together.
Yeah, those messages from the people that are working with saying, okay, so the whoever it is, the big cheese has just sent me a message saying, okay, I was so cynical about this, and it's just been beyond expectations, and it's just like, I will let you do anything you want from now on in, because you've been so clever about this event. And I think those just make us go, yes. But I think, like everybody, you know, I spent most of March last year wallowing in a vat of red wine and dark chocolate, sobbing in front of Netflix, gaining stones by the moment, and then going, actually, no, this is a really exciting time. And all that's just happened is more and more. This industry is having a massive kick up the butt and changing, which it needed to do, and using technology and making things so much more inclusive, because so many more people can come and get something out of an event. And business can be done on a huge, way bigger level. And it's not just all about, you know, oh God, business is done in the bar afterwards. It's like, no, stuff is learned and done all day long. And I think it's a really exciting time to be in the industry. So I'm so glad I met you. One of the best things that happened in COVID was meeting Sam. So a lovely comment to end with Jan here. The last 15 months have for sure been a worry and a challenge, but so many positives to have come out of it. New ways to do business, new opportunities. And I've met some amazing people that I wouldn't necessarily have met. Absolutely, Jan. Isn't it going to be fun when we all meet in person? I can't wait to have.
I haven't seen Jan for 2 years, I think it's probably now. But Jan and I have spent probably more time actually online, having different conversations in different spaces, and that's the opportunity. But as you said, rest assured, when we get back in that room, those wine glasses will be clinking.
Let's have an event host retreat somewhere gorgeous. Let's meet there. That'll be a good thing to do. Yeah, right. Listen, thank you so much, Sam. Amazing to talk to you
nice to see
online.
You.
A little bit less sweary than we normally are.
It's really nice just having a chat, isn't it? Normally you're like, oh gosh, I was like, oh, do I have to prepare? And you're like, no, it's lovely. But yeah, and I meant what I said. You know, we're here. If people want to come and have a coffee over Zoom or a coffee in person, if they're local, then quiz us. We're happy to help.
Brilliant. It's like stepping into quicksand, someone's called it. That's great, but it's going to be okay. It is. We found a good bridge out. Right,
Rose, it's going to be okay. Give us a shout if you need any help. You know, we're always here. It's lovely to see you, Rose.
And we'll be speaking to more interesting people here on LinkedIn on the odd Mondays. I'm not going to make promises about which Mondays, because life just seems too chaotic at the moment. But thank you, Sam, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, Claire.